Hi, everyone. I am back with another episode of With Love Solé. And what I want to talk about today is the topic of endings. Now, I might be about to go super Scorpio on you because Scorpios are the masters of transformation and the masters of endings. But, it has been true in my life. And as I commit to my own spiritual path, that endings are a very natural and consistent part of the journey. And, I think a lot of people are still stuck in this old framework where if a friendship ends or if a relationship doesn't last forever or even familial relationships shift and change or take space or what have you, like a lot of people almost need it to end kind of on a bad note, and I'm still kind of unsure why. I think part of it is because it can frankly be easier to like just be mad at them, and that's why we're not talking anymore, instead of like the health on a healthy note of like, it wasn't a vibrational match anymore. We came and we did what we were, intended to do together, and life moved on. Or, there's so many reasons why something ends. And frankly, it to me does not take away from the potency of the connection. It doesn't mean that it was any less valuable. It just means that some energies don't journey with you forever, and I think that we have this sort of fable, this fairy tale ideal around forever, and it keeps us from thinking that something that doesn't end up being forever, which nothing is, means that it's bad or that something went wrong, right? And it's just not true. I mean, on the one hand, nothing is forever, and that's true in the 3D reality. On the other hand, energy doesn't ever end and die, it transforms. And so in a 5D, context, in a way, everything is forever, but it's not going to stay in the same form that it's always been in a forever way in the 3D reality. And you can't cling to that because frankly, you stifle the evolution of whatever it is if you try to keep it being a certain thing that it's been just because you're comfortable in it being that. And this goes for so many things. I think relationships are one way that we really attach, and we attach to things being a certain way and looking a certain way. I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about the woman was talking about how she's had three husbands, but they've all been her husband, meaning that she had to kind of reset and restart her marriage on three separate occasions, and that she laughs at the sort of versions of her that existed in the previous two marriages because she's such a different person now, and that she had to, that her marriage really needed to reflect that. And I thought that was a really super cool way of looking at things, because sometimes ending means the way that this has existed has to end because I'm no longer the person that supports this existing in the way that it does. And so an ending can also be kind of a restart, a renewal of your vows, if you will, to whatever the thing is. But sometimes things just end. I certainly have had friends come in and out of my life, and people I've journeyed with come in and out of my life. And I have plenty of people who, like, we've sort of, consciously separated, if you will, like even friendships that felt like there was some incongruency in our relationship or something that was causing us to just not be sort of a vibrational match. And even that can be temporary, because sometimes I feel like bonds need space. And sometimes you might take years where you don't really talk, and it doesn't mean you're mad at them. It doesn't even mean there's bad blood. In fact, one of my friends who we were really close for some time, and then we just kind of mutually took some space and we didn't talk for a few years, just messaged me the other day. And she's like, I just want you to know, like, I still love you so much. And I was like, I still love you so much. Like, it's never, I don't hold bad energy around something. And if I do, that actually says to me the bond is not finished, or there's still more to do. Because if there's something, there's like a charge or a rub on my end of a bond, then I either need to just find a way to clear that and find, completion or peace with the bond, or there's still conversation to be had, or there's still work to be done with this person. It means that it's not, you actually haven't found the ending when you're still mad, or you still hold something in yourself. Like if this person's name comes up and you get triggered, like that, there's a lot of information for you there. But if you can just think of them lovingly, doesn't mean that they have to be in your life in the same way that they've always been. And it doesn't always mean that they're completely gone. Like I could message, just as my friend could message me, I could message her. It's no bad blood. It's just like we're both, I think, in tune with the energy of our connection. And for whatever reason, the energy is just saying like, go do your own things for a while. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful. I think actually endings are beautiful, and I haven't always felt that way. I certainly at some point, I think, was a little bit more attached to things. And to be honest, the death of my mother, like, was kind of the final, like, piece of me, like, really learning how to let go, because, and I talk about an ending, that's like an ultimate ending. And so it really taught me how to shift my relationship to the attachment to it being one way. Because of course, I still feel her presence in my life all the time. And I've had to allow our relationship to go from 3D to spiritual, if you will. And if you believe in that, and if you don't, I don't care, because that's what's true for me. But it's a change. It's a transformation. And I do believe if you're really on your spiritual path, you yourself will always be transforming. So how possibly could the relationships and the circumstances and the environments that you're connected to not also transform? If they weren't, it would be something that would end up being a drain on your energy, because the spiritual path also has you recalibrating and reclaiming your energetic and spiritual potential and your energetic and spiritual bodies, meaning you have bigger energy and you're moving in a bigger way throughout the world. And so, some things won't be a vibrational match to that anymore, because maybe some relationships came in to show you what codependency looks like, or some relationships came in to teach you what a narcissist is, or, like, people are sent to us for every reason until we don't need their teachings anymore. And then, things close and end and shift and transform and carry on. So I say all this to say, even with family, everybody believes differently with family. And I'm not going to say that I'm sorry, there's a blue jay right at my window. Isn't there a song for that? Anyways, you guys are probably all singing it in your head by now. Hey, buddy. Um, Even with family relationships, I think they are some of the biggest ones wherein, of course, I think ideally it would be great if you can maintain your family relationships, because I think there's something to be said about the people we come in with in that way. And there's not one right way for that to look. There's not one right way to navigate familial relationships. There's not one way a mom should look, or a dad should look, or a sister, or whomever. There's not one way to that. So when you release your own expectations around the paradigm of what these familial relationships can look like, then they can look like what they are, which means that you can actually relate to the person as they are and not who you expect them to be. And if you're relating to them as they are, and you see over time that who they are or how they operate in certain ways does not support you, or it is not what you need, or there is incongruencies there, then I think a part of your relationship to them and what you have signed up to do for them is to say, this doesn't work. And if there are things that you feel that strongly about, that you like, the relationship simply cannot continue on as it is, because this is not working and it's leaking or draining your power, or it's, out of integrity for you to even enable these behaviors, then I think there's a conversation there too to be had. And ideally, it's great if everybody's working on themselves. They're like, man, thanks for letting me know. I didn't even know that didn't work. May not happen like that, to be honest. In fact, probably not. But you're giving them the highest opportunity, and you're feeding the bond in the highest way by giving them this leg up, by helping them see themselves. Because the truth is, a lot of people will be like, I don't do that. I'm not like that, because they're in denial of how they operate. And you're being like, actually, as someone who's known you my entire life, like, you do that, and it's not going to work for me anymore. So if you want to continue this relationship, this is going to need to change. So we're kind of going back to the idea of like a woman remarrying her husband. In long-standing familial relationships, you have to kind of sometimes hard stop things and reset. And then you show up different. And then you're saying, I'm going to need you to show up different, and then hold different boundaries, and, have a different way of connecting to each other. And if you can do that in one conversation and with a family member, that's awesome. Sometimes, and it was true for me in a couple of my family dynamics, that I needed to like take some time to reset even how I can show up, and then reinsert myself into the relationship so that I'm showing up in my power and I'm not leaking my own power by X, Y, and Z. So I don't think space is a bad thing. I don't think that giving, having maybe uncomfortable conversations and then giving things a little bit of time to transform is a bad thing. And that doesn't matter who it is. I think it is actually healthy, because both of those aforementioned family members for me, we're super strong now. We're super strong, but it has taken time and me, like the uncomfortable conversations and me being willing to say, I'm not going to tolerate this, for them to change to me. Now, that doesn't mean that they've necessarily changed to anybody else, but to be a 1000% that they have. And our relationships are solid, and I feel good about our connection now more than ever. And it's only because I took the hard stand. Because if I had not, then I would still be suffocating and just resentful and all of the ways that I was existing prior when I hadn't spoken my truth to them. So, because the other piece of that is I was also had to be willing, and with any person that you bring the hard conversations to, you have to be willing for the relationship to transform or to end or to lose them, if you will, because it can't go on as it is, you know? And so if their response to your being like, this doesn't work for me is like, well, then we're done, then, you know, because if you're saying it doesn't work for you, then, and they're saying, well, that's what they're going to do, then that's where you part. And again, it doesn't even have to be, you know, bad blood. Like if they're like, yeah, sorry, I can't, that's who I am. So that's how it's going to be. Then you're saying, well, that doesn't work for me. So, well, we've landed on this, you know, kind of an incongruency in our relationship. And so I'm going to go this way and you go that way. And like, maybe we come back together in the future. We don't know, but it doesn't have to be bad, you know. I think you, especially with romantic relationships, and I'll speak more for women because I don't know if this is totally true for men, but you know, women often they will have almost when they feel something coming to an end, a romantic relationship coming to an end, they'll almost look for something to be mad about or some reason to confirm that this needs to end, even though intuitively and energetically they can feel it's just coming to an end, plain and simply, like that's what's happening here. But it's easier to be like, oh, see, I knew it. This is the, you know, and then you have all your backing to why you know what you know, instead of just knowing what you know, and then it being just like, you know what, I can't, this isn't working. And again, sometimes things change and transform, and sometimes that's actually a beautiful thing for the relationship because you're kind of helping them up level to where you know, kind of a higher vibrational relationship or a more conscious relationship. And sometimes people aren't willing to do that work or aren't willing to see that part of themselves or own that or take accountability or what have you. And that's completely fine because you will have at least brought it to their attention. And then you will say, I can't, you know, afford to be in a relationship where this is happening. And things move on. So in all ways, you know, what I'm offering the conversation today is just to think about endings not being this big bad blowout thing, or that means that the thing that carried on is bad, or you have to be mad at them. You know, a grudge you hold within yourself is literally like poisoning yourself, like low key, if you think about it. If somebody has the power that just hearing their name, you like cringe or you have a visceral response, that means that they still have like some power over you, if you will, which you're giving them because you haven't healed whatever the visceral response is. So, you know, like forgiveness is so much for you. Forgiveness is so much for you. And clearing a charge you have around someone is very much for you. Like it seems like, well, I'm going to stay mad at them because that's the right thing to do. Well, you're only doing that to yourself. I mean, you're maybe doing it to them a little bit. They probably don't even know and they moved on and you're still mad. So if you're holding all of that and you're, you know, chewing away your own energy by staying mad, then you're only doing yourself a disservice. So I think finding peace, and I think kind of this is like the sort of Jesus code of like becoming light as a feather, because you don't have these like all of these kind of loose ends energetically to people, then you're mad here and you mad at this person and this, you know, whatever it is, you don't have all of that. You're like spirit is light because you don't hold things against other people that you hold within yourself, and that you've made peace with your bond. So there's fluidity and clarity, even if somebody doesn't exist in your immediate reality anymore. So I invite you to open this conversation in your own heart and in your own life, just to like look around a little bit with this like perspective of like endings not being a bad thing. They're actually kind of beautiful because every time you close a door, another one opens. And it's not to say close every door and what have you and jump to ending everything quickly. But if something has served its time and there's an, you know, the expiration date is felt, let it shift, let it give it some space, let it go do its own thing for a while, and let that not be a bad thing necessarily. You know, I think the more we allow things to transform, the more we allow ourselves to transform. And the truth of the matter is, as you transform, there's a lot of uncertainty around what and who and when and where and all of that that's going to come with you to the next level. All you know for sure is you will have who you need, and you will land where your feet need to be, and you will always be on the divine timing of your own progression. And the rest is just going to be the kind of 3D details of who's there and who's showing up and what else and opportunities and what have you that meet you at every next level. And it's exciting. It can be exciting. There's always more to look forward to. And if you're grasping to certainty, you make it harder for yourself because uncertainty is the name of the game. And there's the certainty of new levels and new beginnings and changes and transformations for you and new vibrational matches and other things falling away. The unlearning is just as much of an important part of the spiritual path as is the learning, meaning that you're unlearning, so having certain people as your day one or whatever it is, the people that we cling to, the opportunities we cling to, the jobs that we cling to, whatever it is that's not is ready to like not come with you anymore. You have to be willing to let things not come with you or let things transform or hold a boundary to what doesn't work for you so that you can keep yourself in your energetic power as you transform. And the beautiful thing is, as you transform and as you progress, you will consistently meet new people and new levels and new tier of how relationship can feel, because you don't even know certain ways that relationships can show up for you or relationships can exist for you in your life until you reach every next level and you meet the people who are like, oh, wow, this is even possible. I didn't even know that was possible. I call them fragment expanders. You may have heard me use that term before because they expand your consciousness around what's possible, but you don't know that can happen until it happens. So you have to, as they say, leave room for the unimaginable. And that's what I think a lot of this is. You're just leaving room in your spirit for the unimaginable. You're leaving room on your path for the unimaginable. And that if something's a vibrational match today and not tomorrow, like it doesn't have to be that finicky, but if it's not a vibrational match consistently for long enough that your spirit's like rejecting it or you're feeling like there needs to be some space, it's okay. It's fine. It doesn't have to be this big bad blowout thing. I think healthy communication is so healing that sometimes even what feels like an ending is just asking for healthy communication. And when you have that, it's like almost like a new beginning because you almost feel closer to that person because you've said the thing that needed to be said. So don't shy away from healthy communication, even if it means it might lead towards an ending, because it's either going to end or transform. And either way, it's going to be what you need and what the bond is asking for. There's two of you here. So sometimes you sharing your truth is also what they need from you. And if you're not, you're doing them as a service just as much as you're doing yourself a disservice. So I wanted to bring that here. I think endings are a big piece. And I think when you soften your grip around endings, you let life just move a lot more fluidly and you don't end up being your own block around change and transformation that's trying to happen in your life. So just be aware of it. Again, doesn't mean go and cut everybody off. But if relationships and friendships, jobs, environments, where you live, what you do, how you show up, because endings happen within yourself too, 1000%. Like let it all just be this constant flowing, shifting, energetic body of moreness, and that you don't always know what more is until you get there, and that not everything can come with you into more. And that's in no way a bad thing. In fact, it's a really beautiful part of the path. And it's really beautiful that we get to experience each other and learn from each other, if even just besties for a week. And then, you picked up the codes you needed and then you kept it moving. And it doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that your path then went different ways. So that's what I've got now. I've got a cardinal. I wish I could show you guys the birds out here. I need to get one of those like bird visor things where you put it on and there's like, you could see and there's like little bird. Anyways, this is what I think about throughout my day. I need a bird visor. I wonder if they land on the bird visor. Anyways, okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my plans for the birds. Let me know if you have any questions. You can see my got soulful remedies over here. We have just launched a bunch of new products. I'm so in love with all of them. We have clay masks and we have body oils and we have teas and so much good stuff. So check out the site, soulfulremedies.shop. We're offering 25% off right now by way of our kind of second rollout here. So spring 25 is the code at checkout if you want to get yourself something or a gift for someone else. But all in all, as always, thank you all for being here and I'll see you next time.